Hey, what's going on?
Nothing, excited to have our podcast back finally.
We are finally back, you guys. We were just talking about this before the show, and you said it's been over a year, huh?
Yeah, I think we recorded last October, so a little over a
No
year. Isn't
way. So
isn't
it's like
that fast?
literally almost a year. Like it's a little
I
bit just
know.
over a year. Wow.
Yep.
Well, so those of you who have not been here, this is our show that is pretty much 100% dedicated towards, bikini and wellness, everything. What's the name here? Let's see if you can say it, since I
It's a
always
little
mess
bit
it
of
up.
a tongue twister. It's the Brian Bree Bikini and Wellness Zone. So
Boom,
we
killed
do
that.
talk. Yeah, I practiced it. But so yeah, we talk about everything bikini and wellness, but I think some of these things even just apply to anybody just thinking about competing or just kind of in the fitness world or industry here.
Yeah. A lot of the tips and stuff we'll talk about in the show. And we're kind of giving you guys the intro again because it's been a whole year. And a lot of you
Yeah.
listening now probably never heard the first episode. So with that, it's pretty much just covering all the bases of people that maybe want to be a competitor. They're already a competitor. I mean, you could be, IFBB pro, listen to this, or, just in general, take some knowledge bites and things like that for the everyday person, with fitness goals, like many people have. And we do have a consistent schedule, family, everybody, the fit fam out here. We have set. I talked to Brianna about it, and she's like, "Okay, the next 8 weeks are this." I'm like, "Okay, whoa, here we go."
We're like set into like March right now. So we're staying on track. Every other week we're gonna come out with a podcast. So we're not gonna let another year pass by.
No, yeah, we're aimed to be consistent here and make sure we're giving you guys the value and everything. And we always want to hear what you want us to bring too. So let us know, wherever you're listening to this, drop a comment or reach out, send us a DM, whatever, and let us know what stuff you want us to cover. Today, what are we talking about?
So today I thought it would be a good idea to talk about holiday tips and traps, holiday tips and hacks.
Hmm.
It's the season, so I thought it'd be appropriate to talk about how to approach the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really crazy time of year for a lot of people. This is when, by the way, everybody listening, a lot of people fall off like this time of year,
Yeah.
October, November, December, when you got all these holidays coming up. And, a lot of people have multiple holidays, right? Where they go to, they
Mhm.
might go do 2 Thanksgivings, 3 Thanksgivings, whatever, 4 Christmases, and then all of a sudden you're having all these different things, not to mention just candy and cookies and treats all over the place. So, it is a really important time to stay on top of your goals. So, like, what's the first thing you want to think about coming into this, Brianna?
So I guess even hearing you say that, I kind of want to address the whole idea of the holidays, right? So it's a holiday season, but I think we should start thinking about it as a holiday, right? So
Hmm.
you shouldn't, if you start thinking about it as a holiday season, you're going to start thinking about it as Thanksgiving, end of November, all the way through like the new year. That is like,
Yeah,
I don't even know, more than a month, right?
yeah,
So I think you should really think of this time as holidays. And, then you have just a few days that you have to think about being off track. So you'll have, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, New Year's, and maybe just a couple holiday parties. So maybe 5 or 6 actual dates instead of a whole holiday season. I think that's the first mistake people make going into the season is thinking of it as a entire season, not just a couple of dates.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
100% correct. And I mean, like, how important, you train a lot of competitors, obviously I do
Mhm.
too. How important is it to stay on track? Like, obviously we talk about a lot of flexible dieting and macros and
Mhm.
eating things. And I mean, you get like these epic untracked meals every week and all
Mhm.
these things we do. But like during the holiday season, have you ever worked with a competitor? Maybe you've seen like totally just get derailed by, the holidays and stuff. I mean, I personally can think of a handful of people, but like looking at people I've seen on Instagram and things like that, there are a lot of people that will go through the holiday season and like do what you said basically and be like, you know what, this is a whole season. This is bulking time. This is where I'm going to gain. And they got to cut like 30 pounds off when they go to stage next
Mhm.
season, which is really hard on the body. So, like, have you seen that happen? Like, how important is it?
Oh, it's so important. Yeah, it happens so often. I think that people think of it as a whole season, and it's so easy to get in a calorie surplus, and you start doing it day after day. Before you know it, you're like 30 pounds over by then, starting New Year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, And I think that's the biggest problem. I think your mindset has to be set. Like you have to realize that you're in full control of
Hmm.
these dates, and your mindset has to be aligned with your goals. So if you're going to stay in a calorie deficit, plan for it. If you're going to go into a maintenance phase during these days, again, plan for it. And if you're, I think personally, this is probably a really good time to be in a little bit of a surplus, maybe
Yeah.
like a muscle building phase. And if that's the case, then plan for that. So I think being very clear about what your goals are going into the season, right? I think that's the best way to stay on track. Otherwise, January is going to come and you're going to be starting from scratch all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, it can easily happen, right? Because a
Mhm.
lot of people too, competitors, they get very used to eating a certain way. Even with macros and everything else, you get used to eating, here's my chicken, here's my eggs, here's my
Mhm.
egg whites. Holiday comes around and you start seeing, people got cookies, people got fudge, they got, all
Yes.
these fancy little things everywhere. And you don't even know, like intuitively, probably the calorie intake, from throwing back a few pieces of fudge at
Oh
work or
yeah.
whatever when someone brings something in. And all of a sudden, you're stacking these calories, stacking these, and you get in the habit where you could be eating, potentially in the week span of time, thousands of calories
Yep.
over
Oh,
without even knowing.
easily.
Not to mention, like, a lot of people like love Starbucks and stuff like that,
Mhm.
right? Starbucks comes out with all these fancy holiday
Mhm.
drinks. And then if you look at the macros on those things, it's like probably your entire day's worth of carbs in one drink. But
Yeah.
people don't think that, it's a calorie or anything that counts. And all of a sudden, you're
It
getting further and further away from stage physique.
It's totally right. And I think that's a good place to start our tips and hacks for
Hmm.
the holiday season, because I want to talk about liquid calories there. But I think that, so our tips are going to help you guys be able to come out of this holiday season or holidays feeling good about your choices without having any guilt, but still enjoying yourself. So, my first tip right there is don't drink your calories. Like one
Hmm.
Starbucks drink, easily like 600 and upward on calories. That's pretty much a competitor's like half a day of eating. I mean, really. But don't drink your calories. It's so easy to get 2 or 3 Starbucks and it's already adding upward of a couple thousand calories there.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that, when we talk about macros and calories, everybody, or even your day-to-day meal
Mhm.
plan, like that day to day is not what's creating the result. It's the accumulation of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, of doing consistent things. So like it's not to say, okay, well, I just had that one time. No, if you look at the span and you had, maybe over the span of a few weeks where you're adding extra calories you didn't realize, that can be a couple pounds of body fat easily.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it didn't seem like anything because it's just that one little thing here, one little thing there. So yeah, not drinking your calories is super beneficial. And one of the things that everybody always is doing around the holidays is a little bit of alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of
Mhm.
people, for one, don't know how to track alcohol. It's not the same as tracking other things. And for two, again, you start getting a little buzz going, a little wine drunk at the holiday dinner, and all of a sudden, you're drinking 3, 4 more glasses of wine, and all you're stacking these calories up. You don't even know what you're getting, and these things can derail your progress as a competitor for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Alcohol is such a big one too this time of year. So I think that if you're going to drink, again, have a game plan for it. Either account for how many drinks you're going to have, set a number that you're okay with having, maybe 2, 3, and that's it. Don't go over that.
Yep.
If you're going to drink too, especially if you're going to try to stay in maintenance or deficit, aim for lower calorie drinks. There's tons of different options now. I'm not a big drinker, but I know you can just do like sugar free, or not sugar free, but like seltzer and like
I've seen that. Yeah.
alcohol. Yeah. So there's tons of different options now. You don't have to have the really sugary drinks that have a ton of calories in them. So make better choices if you're going to drink healthier, not healthier, but lower calorie,
Yep.
maybe.
Exactly.
Um, and have a limit for it. It doesn't, because I think that once you start drinking, it's not only the problem of the alcohol calories, but then you start making other decisions off of that, right? Like you want to eat
Hmm.
even more, or you're having cravings for different things after you're drinking.
Yeah, that's actually there's a recent study about that. A lot of people have said for years that drinking was the cause of people gaining weight. And then they looked at it, right? And the way that alcohol is absorbed in the body is so like weird. It's not digested like any other nutrient. We won't go too deep into this and this show to
Yeah.
bore people, but like they pretty much found that it has not much to do with the actual calories or anything in the alcohol, as long as you're paying attention to it. It actually has to do with the choices you make after, right? So, like, I know a lot of people that I've coached over the years, mostly lifestyle type clients. They'll be like, "Oh, I went out for drinks last night, and it's check-in day on Sunday, and they were out Saturday night," and they're like, "Yeah, I had a great time, had a couple of vodka, whatever things," and then all of a sudden, I was at McDonald's, ordering food at midnight, or that's what does it. So it's really
Mhm.
easy when it's a holiday party or it's at, a dinner or something with your friends, your family, to have some drinks. And then you have all this crazy food, right? And then you're like, okay, more, more, more. So, I mean, like what you're saying, having a plan, that's the first thing. And, not everybody wants to drink, and that's fine too. You don't have to. We're trying to give you guys perspective all around. Like it could sound like already coming out, maybe we're being like, no, you can't have Starbucks. No, you can't have alcohol. No, we're not saying that. We're saying though, if you want to have perspective on your goals and be your best competitor, get as far as you want on any of these stages, you're going to have to keep, a mindset all the time. Cause like, Brianna, competitors is 365, right? You're IFBB
Yeah.
pro. So like how many days a year can you just say, you know what? Forget it. I mean, it doesn't happen
Hmm.
often, right? If you want to maintain your goals and keep your perspective. And for, anybody doing competitions these days, it's very competitive. So if you plan to
Yeah.
go do well, you have to keep some type of a framework. And it doesn't mean you can't have balance and you can't enjoy yourself. You can, but the framework, I think, becomes really important. So what do you, in what
Yeah.
situations have you been able to throw away the whole day and just be like, you know what?
Oh shoot, never. It's always in the back of my mind. It's always in the back of my mind. For one, I am a professional athlete. It's year round, right? And
Yep.
two, I think about like how hard I work every day with my training, my nutrition to just kind of throw it away
Undo it.
with, yeah, undo it, right? It's so unfair the way the body works, right? You can undo weeks of hard work and one full day, really, if you were to like binge or go, you know, have alcohol and binge on calories, and
Yep.
you threw away your entire week and even more. And it's a lot of work to undo that. So I keep that perspective in the back of my mind. And I think I didn't work this hard to just have to go fix this next week, you know?
Right.
Or I think about the work it would take to basically undo everything that I'm just eating now. So it's a mindset of year round of, yes, I want to enjoy myself, but I don't want to overdo it. And I think that's the message we're trying to show today. Like you can have balance without ruining your progress or setting yourself back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit now about actual meals, right? Like what do you think when you're actually at, a Thanksgiving or like a Christmas dinner or whatever, any of these holiday dinners people might have, like what's the first key to do maybe at the actual situation?
Yeah. So usually when I go into these meals, I tend to plan my day a little bit ahead of time, right? So,
Yep.
uh, like I know when the holidays are, obviously. So maybe that morning I wake up, or not maybe, actually always that morning I wake up and get a workout in, like first thing, my workout.
Yeah.
It like sets the
Yes.
tone for the whole day. Like you're already feeling good. You already made one choice. You're feeling like healthy and your endorphins are feeling good. So like I think setting the tone early in the morning before you even get to your dinner is super important. By the time you get there, you're already feeling good. You put in the work at the gym. I think it's going to cause you to make healthier choices or better choices when you're at
Yep.
dinner. And then at that point, your metabolism is also like kind of fired up a little bit. So it feels good to eat.
Yeah, yeah, and it
Yeah.
keeps your goals in focus, right? You start the day
Mm-hmm.
with a workout or you get one in. I mean, don't throw it away. And a lot of people do because the holidays, like
Yeah.
even I was looking at my gym's hours and it's like we're open 2 hours. I was like, oh, geez,
Yeah.
like
But
I
you
don't
know
want to go
what?
there, but
I thought about that too because I already have clients tell me like I'm going to be traveling or my gym is closed for the holidays. Like even if you just go for a walk, like walk your
yeah,
neighborhood, do a quick little home workout, anything, a bike ride, a little hike. I know, and this is kind of extreme, but there's a lot of like races this time of year, like holiday fun 5Ks or whatever the case,
Yeah, there
go try
is. Yep.
something different. I guess like the point is get some movement in before you go into this, holiday dinner or day. It's just going to set the tone.
Yeah, it keeps your goals in focus, keeps,
Mhm.
everything in perspective. And again, like that's what I always used to do with cheat meals is I'd be like, okay, well, what muscle group do I think is lacking the most? And that's the one I'm going to train. And then we go eat, pizza or whatever, because like,
Yeah.
use the calories, use the food. So don't let that all go to waste. That can be great for building muscle and things like that.
Mhm. Yeah. And then another thing is, I guess, whenever I get to these, it's so many habits that I build over time. But something I like to do is I kind of fill up with a lot of veggies or like a bigger salad before I get into like my main meal. So I do this like Thanksgiving. I know I'm gonna have like they always have like veggie platters. I'm probably gonna fill up on those first. Um, and I do this too, not just with the holidays. For example, I like to go eat sushi a lot, and anytime before my rolls come out, I always have like either like the little miso soups or a salad. And it just kind of fills me up a little bit so I don't overdo it on the higher calorie foods.
Yeah. And, what about like hydration, water, things like
Oh,
that? What are
so
you doing with that?
important. So important. Hydrate extra because it's very easy for hunger to uh, be for thirst to be confused for hunger. Did I say that right? Yeah. So make sure you're hydrated. Otherwise, you could be eating extra thinking you're hungry, and really you're just dehydrated. So chug your water that morning. Start chugging as soon as you wake up, but stay extra hydrated.
Yeah, hydration is a factor, filling up on other foods and making sure, some of these really calorie dense foods
Mm-hmm.
you're not overdoing. I mean, what's your favorite thing at like Thanksgiving or something, Brianna?
Oh, mashed potatoes for sure.
Yeah. And so, how easy would it be to stack up just a whole plate of mashed potatoes and go to town on it? And, all of a
Oh,
sudden, way too many calories, right? So,
way too many. But so I guess this is another tip here. So
yeah.
I know I love the mashed potatoes. Like I could eat those, and I mean they're in no way healthy, right? Like my mom like loads them up with butter and I don't even know what else. They're just really good. But I will eat it there and I don't bring any home. So a big tip is don't bring food home. Like whatever you're going to eat at these parties, leave it there. And if you're the one hosting it, maybe give it away to people to take home. Or if you really want to, you could probably even like freeze some of it for later or something. But pretty much like out of sight, out of mind. You don't want to keep these foods around for the next day or later that night. Fill up on it and get rid of it.
That's actually a really good tip. I mean, I haven't really heard that, but when you sent me the notes, I was like, okay, that's a pretty good idea. Because, if it's in the house, right? Because that's how you turn Thanksgiving into Thanksgiving week versus Thanksgiving Day. And so, yeah, it can be
It's
crazy.
so easy. It's so easy, especially like as competitors. I think that we spend so much time restricting food. And when our taste buds start to taste some of these things, they go wild and you're going to want more and more. And it's going to be a little hard to stop. So keep it out of the house, give it away, donate it somewhere. If you're not the one cooking, it's easy because you just don't bring any home, but don't keep it in the house if you know you're going to be tempted to eat it the next day or later that day.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too. Like, what's the pace of eating? What pace should someone be going into the meal with, right? Because if you've been saving up, right, like what I would do is
Mm.
I would do a little different than you. I would save up the calories. I would pretty much be like, you know what? I know what's happening later. So I'm gonna save it up and I'm gonna go game on. But what that's gonna mean is like I'd be really hungry and I'm not a bikini competitor, so I don't have to worry about my calories as much as you. But at the end of the day, a lot of people probably do something like that in some situations where they're saving calories because they know they're going to eat, they're going to drink, whatever. But your hunger levels will be crazy when you get there. So it can be really
Mhm.
easy to eat too much at once. So do you think like pace of eating has anything to do with it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a good point. Like people approach this one of two ways. You like what you just said, they'll save all their calories for later in the day. Which I don't know. I think that would, I guess this is, I hadn't thought about it this way. In my opinion, I think it's better to make sure you've eaten enough during the day, or maybe just focus on getting enough protein leading into this bigger meal, just so that you're not feeling super ravenous when you get there, right? So that's the approach I would take, because if I'm already feeling a little bit full and not starving, I'm going to be able to eat a little less when I'm there. And then, really once you get to your dinner, be present. Don't try to make it all about the food and just rush and eat everything. Like, slow down, enjoy the moment, enjoy your family. Um, Maybe eat one plate. And if you think you're hungry, drink some water, just give it a little break. If you're really hungry, then you can get seconds, I guess. But slow down is my takeaway for this.
Yeah, definitely. And, at the end of the day, keeping that pace is going to keep your goals in sight again. You're not going to get in the spot where you're too hungry, you're eating too much. At the end of the day, what we're talking about the most part, planning ahead, in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
Keeping your goals in the forefront all the time, listening to your body, paying attention to when you feel full versus not, are you actually full? Because full, that's one thing we should probably talk about.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't even know when they're full, right? And they just keep eating, and then all of a sudden train wreck. There's that classic, they always say, food coma of the holidays, right? Where everybody eats a bunch and then they go take a nap or whatever. But that's food catching up to you. That's your appetite saying you ate too much. Now go to sleep.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I guess maybe just paying attention to your body, right? Are you really full? Like, how do you know if you're really full, especially if you're someone that's been very hungry or restricting calories? Your taste buds are going wild and you probably don't even know if you're hungry or not. What I would do is, for one, like, you have physical signs of fullness, right? Like, your belly's getting distended. Like, I see people like unbuckling their tight pants or belts or whatever, or some people just show up wearing stretchy clothes to prepare for this, which is so extreme. But
stretchy clothes, yeah.
they do, like, they wear their stretchy pants or loose-fitting clothes or whatever. But I think, pay attention to your body. Are you feeling already like a little distended? Are you getting full? How much have you eaten? You're like, just logically think, if you feel like you can't trust your hunger cues. If you eat a good amount, chances are you're already full and you don't need more. Something I do year round with all my meals, after every meal that I eat, this is a little crazy, but I just get up and go brush my teeth. I carry my toothbrush everywhere. It's just like a habit, because once I brush my teeth, like, I don't like the taste of mint. So I'm not going to want to go eat something after I just brushed my teeth. It just doesn't even sound good. So get up, maybe go brush your teeth or get a piece of gum. And I bet you, like, you'll get that minty taste and your taste buds are not going to be going wild. And you're going to start realize, like, okay, yeah, I'm full. I don't need another plate of food. So that's a really good tip right there.
That is a really good tip. Balancing out the palate and keeping, this kind of set in your mind. And for you, honestly, part of it's probably mental too, right? You're like, okay, I'm brushing my teeth. That means the meal's over. So that's good. That's a really good tip. Also, anybody listening, for like, if you're a nighttime snacker, like some people get that way, especially around holidays. It's easy because, like, I don't know about you, but like my family, when it's a holiday meal, we're eating earlier than normal, right? Like, mid-afternoon or something like that, kind of like a combination of dinner, lunch kind of thing. And then, that's not the normal. So 7, 8 o'clock rolls around and you could easily start, okay, it's time to have meal two now, kind of thing. So that's a really good tip, something to have in your arsenal to, check the box and say, okay, I'm done eating. I don't need to eat anymore right now. I'm going to keep my goals in mind and keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I think, depending on where you're at or like what your situation is like too, getting up and like walking around a little bit versus just going and laying on the couch is going to help your digestion, and you're not going to feel as sluggish or maybe even not hungry. You're not going to have like those insulin spikes. So if you're able to like get up and go for a little walk, go walk your neighborhood with your dogs or whatever after your meal, I mean, I think it'll help decrease cravings for later in the day. It's something I like to do too. And some of these things I'm realizing they're things I do year round too. Usually when after dinner, I like to go on a little 10-minute walk around my neighborhood just to help digestion. It helps like my fullness, like catch up to my brain, if that makes sense. I don't notice I have as many cravings or those insulin spikes after if I go for a little walk. So something else you guys can do.
Yeah, definitely good tips. And we're kind of giving you guys the bullet list. So just want to say
Yeah.
too, if you're still here listening, thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're following where we're at. We got tons of great content coming, and we're going to keep hitting this list for you on the holidays, but we literally have months and months of stuff planned. It's going to happen. It's going to be epic. And we got tools and tips in here that your coach doesn't even know. So make sure you're listening to what we got going for you guys, because it will make you a better competitor for sure. We can say that. So, okay. So we kind of covered all those bases there for the most part. When it comes to like actual cooking, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. That was actually kind of what I was going to talk about. I think
we're going on the same page.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Nice. So when it comes to actually cooking, do you cook anything for the holiday meals, or is it like mainly your family?
We all take something. We all take a dish, right? So that was exactly what I was going to talk about. I guess first things first, I always let my family know what I'm doing, right? Like, am I in a dieting phase? Am I not? Can I eat this or can I not? And after that, my family is so used to like this bodybuilding lifestyle. They usually will have accommodations for me, or they'll place like, for example, mashed potatoes. If my mom knows that I'm in a strict dieting phase or a little bit stricter, she'll put the butter on the side instead of adding extra so that I can kind of control that. So letting your family know ahead of time kind of what you're doing is so helpful. Or my mom will have things like chips for everyone, but then veggie trays too, just kind of keeping me in mind, or anybody else that has any. I like to think of it as like diet restrictions in a way, like when you go eat somewhere, you let somebody know, like, I'm gluten free, I'm vegan, I don't eat meat, like whatever the case. Kind of think of it that way. Let them know what your restrictions are per se, so then maybe they can or accommodate or just be okay with what you're doing and not question you all day of like, do you want more? Do you want more pie? Why aren't you doing this? Let them know right off the bat, I am dieting, or I'm kind of controlling my calories today, or whatever it is that you're doing. And just letting them know, I think, sets up the whole dinner day. And then answering your question about the foods, I like to take something that I know I'm going to be able to eat. Obviously, it's something that everybody else is going to enjoy too, but maybe something that I know will align with my goals for the night. I'll take things like, or sometimes what I like to do too is take a little bit of a macro-friendly dish and not even tell them and have them taste it. And like 90% of the time they love it and they don't even realize it's like macro-friendly. So I think, what did I do last year? I can't like think off the top of my head, but I'm really good at doing like protein cookies and things like that. I usually take a dessert or something that's a little bit more macro friendly that I know I'm going to be able to eat after, but then that's also delicious for them. And it's pretty cool to see them try it and they never really realize like it's lower calorie or high protein or whatever the case. And it's cool when I get to tell them, hey, by the way, that was only 100 calories or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good, nice little hack, even if you don't tell them, right? Because then they don't know, and they won't know they're getting duped. But that's actually a good point that is not really on our list of things to talk about, but maybe we should dive into it a little bit. Is like, a lot of people, like family, friends that are not competitors, things like that in the holidays, may not understand like your goals, because they will be like, oh no, it's Thanksgiving, it's time for me to stack 25K cal in here today. I want, 25,000 calories today of food, and you want to stick to your, 2,000. That's crazy, so like, I don't know if you've ever encountered this, but I know a lot of my clients do, where they deal with the stress of having to be the person at the family meal that has to stay on track while everybody else is kind of going crazy, and they feel like kind of the odd person out. So maybe you have some tips there.
Yeah. Gosh, this was really hard, especially when I first got into competing. My family had so many questions. They didn't understand any of it. And even now when I go around like Chris's family or somebody that's not quite as used to it, they have the same type of questions. Depending on the situation, I'll address it a little differently. Sometimes I will explain to someone like, in more detail what I do if it's someone that I'm going to be seeing throughout the holiday season, for example. That way they know. Other times I'll just say things like, I don't know why it feels very easy to say, I'm doing a competition. When you say the word competition, people just respect your goal. They're like, oh, yeah, you have to win. So they kind of like back off a little bit and will
Yep.
let you do your thing versus saying, like, oh, I'm a competitor and they're improvement season. For some reason, they don't like, people don't understand or respect that as much versus saying, like, yeah, I'm doing a competition. It's just like, for some reason allows people to kind of respect what you're doing a little bit more because they see it as a little challenge and something that you have to go win. So that's one
Right.
thing I do. I call it a competition. Two, sometimes I just say I have certain restrictions that I need to follow, dietary restrictions. Also, for some weird reason, some people just understand and respect that more because it kind of falls along the lines of like, I'm gluten free, I'm vegan, I am
Yep.
all the list of things. So if you say it that way, sometimes people respect it because they, I don't know if they assume it's more like something you're doing for health reasons or whatever, but that's another thing to say. Three, sometimes I try not even to make it, depending on the situation, I try not to make it a big deal to where like no one really notices what I'm doing. I think that if I'm not hyper focused on it, others won't be either. Most of the time, people don't care what you're doing. So
Right.
sometimes I don't even mention anything. I just say, thank you, I'm full now. It was delicious, versus sitting there and saying, oh, I'm still hungry. I wish I could have more. So it's kind of how you approach it and you carry yourself there. So usually when I'm done eating, I say, I'm done. This was delicious. Thank you. And everybody else is getting up for seconds. I just say I'm full versus saying, I can't have another plate, blah, blah, blah. Does that make
That's
sense?
great. Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. And again, a lot of people won't get it necessarily,
They
but as long
won't.
as you
Yeah.
can work around them and kind of get the same result, that's, really beneficial.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you need to be the person at Thanksgiving dinner getting the chicken and rice out either. Enjoy the meal, enjoy the food,
Exactly.
and plan around it.
Yeah, I think it's totally okay, in my opinion, to enjoy yourself this one day, especially if it's just one meal and you've planned ahead with all these things that we're talking about. Like you're gonna be fine to enjoy your one meal. And for the future, I think it's good to have these conversations with your family ahead of time, maybe just teaching them a little bit more about what it is that you do. That way, when more holidays come around or as you get deeper into your competition season or goals, it's not a surprise to anyone. They just know this is what you do and they respect it more.
100%. Yeah. I mean, wow.
Yeah,
So I think you've kind of covered most of the bases here for the most part. What
I
what else you
do.
got?
So I guess let's talk about a little bit, what do you do the day after? Some
Good point.
people, right? So I guess my first tip for this is if you ate a big meal, the first thing you should try to do is get a really good night's sleep, right? More food means you're probably going to get a little bit more sleep. Let that meal digest. If you can sleep in a little bit, that's even better because that means your food's going to be digested by the time you wake up and you're going to be feeling good versus going to bed really late and waking up early, waking up very full. That's kind of uncomfortable. So just making sure you get a good night's sleep and let your food digest for this next morning is my first little tip there. And then I guess the question I have for you, Ryan, is how do you think the next day should be approached? Do you think that we should lower calories a little bit, or you think that we should keep the same calories the next day? What are your thoughts on that?
Usually when it comes to holidays, at least in my approach, and obviously everybody does a little different. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
coach a little different on that side, but when it comes to holidays, I generally say for one, don't try to track anything, like just enjoy the day, enjoy the meal. And then the next day, just get back on track. Like, for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, let's get back to the routine. And we don't need to change the calorie intake. We don't need to change, the workouts really for the most part, at least in my experience. Really what just needs to happen is you don't continue that day on and make it a full week of those meals and things like that. You just get back to work and you're back in the training. Is that the same kind of thing that you're having your clients do, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I think the next day you just go back to your regular macros. I don't see why we would have to change any type of calories. I think if anything, use those calories for a good workout, right?
Yep.
I think that workout after your meal is probably going to be more beneficial even than your workout before the meal because now you have all the energy in you, right? So go get some good PRs or uh, lift a little heavier. I know a lot of people try to add in cardio, and I just think that's such a bad idea because there's no way you're going to be able to do enough cardio to undo or make up everything that you ate the day before. Like you would have to like run a marathon or something.
More than that. Probably have to run like
Right.
10. Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, people get in their head, if you want to do cardio for the mental benefit, maybe like so you feel better and you're like, oh yeah, well, I ate way too much, but I did 10 minutes of cardio, so I feel better. Like if that works, good. But actually what's gonna happen, it's nothing pretty much is gonna happen as far as burning that food off or making a change there. So realistically, the best thing to do is just get back on track. That's what I always say. And I don't always it's really easy for competitors to get way too food focused in
Mhm.
general. So I don't like to like set people up to think there's a punishment for, having a meal with your family or enjoying your dinner or doing that. Like, no, it doesn't mean you have to wake up and now, 3 hours of Stairmaster because I
Mhm.
had turkey last, that's not what you should be thinking about because that type of mindset can easily go too far to where you're restricting way too many things or like every time you smell a piece of toast now you think you need to do 25 minutes a hit or something, so like you don't want to get into that mode, and that's why I don't think that's a good idea. I think the best thing is treat that day as a day, as a meal, and then move forward, get back on track, and that's the best thing because your body will be consistent, everything will be consistent, you'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's so easy to start developing bad habits, like trying to do cardio to make up for all the calories you ate. That is such a unsustainable approach to any of this. So I always, how you said, like if they want to do a little cardio just to help digestion and kind of help feel better, great. But that's about it. Something because I like let's admit it, like a lot of us competitors are very like OCD and like food focus and focus on our body. So something if I have someone that's telling me that they want to go do all this cardio or they want to like go run a marathon to try to make up for whatever they just ate, my what I have them do instead is maybe add in one extra workout that week. So if they normally train 4 days, that week they can train 5 days. And I think that physically it's probably going to be a good workout because you have a little extra food. And then I think mostly mentally, it just helps them to know like, oh, they're getting their energy out somehow. So if you have to do something, I would say maybe add in an extra workout that week. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, having an extra weight workout or something to
Weight
utilize the
workout.
food, do
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And also, half the battle as a competitor, right? At least from what I've seen, is
Mm-hmm.
keeping your mindset right. Like probably more than that, like probably 80% of being competitors is keeping your mindset right. Because realistically, anyone listening still, we have talked about a lot of tips and hacks, but these are all really focused around like your mindset in a way, right? For the most
Yeah.
part. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And actually, that brings me to my next point. The mindset is everything with competitors, right? So please do not weigh yourself the day after this meal. Like, just don't go there. You're probably going to be up like 8 or 10 pounds easily, really, like not only with food, but sodium and everything else. So don't weigh yourself because it's going to be, sorry, a mind fuck. Like, you're going to freak out. You're going to stress out. It's not worth it. Just wait till your next scheduled check-in day. And if it's your check-in day is the next day, just don't weigh yourself. Just wait a week. Let that food leave your system. Let your body balance back out, and then go weigh yourself. Because I think competitors were a little crazy on the scale. So just don't go weigh yourself.
Yeah, definitely don't, because what it does is it will mess with your mindset, and I hear this
Mhm.
all holiday season. Unless literally I have pre-quilled for people, like you're saying, like, don't do this, don't do that. I have to tell people in advance, because I've already been getting questions. I mean, since like what month is it now? It's November. Since like I would say probably September, people were already asking me, hey, when it comes to Thanksgiving, what am I going to be doing that day? I'm like, that's in 3 months. What But so then I start telling people you're going to be doing an untracked, you're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing check-ins. I don't really understand. I mean, I get it, but like also at the same time, the scale, it is so detrimental in so many ways for competitors, specifically bikini and wellness competitors. Some of the other divisions, figure, women's physique, stuff like that, they carry a lot more muscle, so they kind of, the scale fluctuates all the time depending what they're eating. And obviously bikini and wellness competitors have a lot of muscle too, and the shape required, but it's not to that level. And so every time a bikini competitor sees the scale move, they're like, uh-oh, this is half a pound up. I'm uh-oh. And it's like this whole idea, where deep down inside you do know when you go eat a bunch of salt, you eat a bunch of food, you eat a bunch of things, you're going to fluctuate simply because of sodium, water intake, and all that.
Mhm.
But competitors in general, I find automatically come up with the idea that scale going up in any direction is a bad thing. And they throw out the actual thought process behind it, right? And the actual science that we know. Everybody knows that, you guys. We all know that. Go like eat 4 tablespoons of salt and weigh yourself in an hour and you'll weigh 2 pounds more. So like what are some tips you have
Yeah.
aside from just not weighing yourself? Like how do you start breaking away from the scale? Because I know even in my time coaching you had some of that back in the beginning and it's much better now.
It is. It is such a struggle. I could go off on this topic because um, I guess the first thing I remind myself is exactly what you said. The scale's going to fluctuate so easily. Even if you weigh yourself in the morning and then weigh yourself at night, easily like 4 pound difference just because of food in your belly and in your system. So just really realizing the scale is going to fluctuate for so many different things. Another thing that I always remind myself of is that a daily weight doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. It's your trends that really matter. If you're going to worry about the scale, look at it as a trend. So over the last month, is it going down even if there's spikes? Or is it maintaining, if that's where you're at? Look at your trend. If you're going to look at the scale, don't look at one day, look at your trend. 3 is to really focus on your goal, right? Is your goal to look better? If yes, then focus on how you look, not on what the scale looks, right? So if you're trying to make physical progress as we are for us competitors, focus on how you're looking. So, are you building more muscles? Are your shoulders looking bigger? Are your glutes looking the way you like them? So if the answer is yes, then why does it matter what the scale says, right? If it's up, but you look better, good. That's another thing. 4 is look at the season that you're in, right? Are you trying to get stronger? And if you are getting stronger in the gym, then great. It doesn't matter what the scale says. I have so many tips for this, and then a bigger one too is like we could make this an entire podcast.
We might need to
itself,
make a whole
really.
episode. I was
We
gonna say,
might
yeah.
need one, yeah. But when all fails, right? When I talk myself through everything, when I've assessed my goals, no, you should have a coach that you trust enough to where you don't have to worry about it. He knows what you're doing. You communicated with him. You're following the plan. Right now, you should think of it as like you're blinded by your own progress. Let your coach adjust and take care of it. Like that's why you have a coach, so that you don't have to do the thinking or the stressing. You should have a coach that you trust fully in making your programming and knowing that you have the same goals. And that should be enough for your insurance. That's for you to keep going with your plan. Don't try to change it. Like keep it as is and just keep communicating with him. So biggest takeaway for all of us competitors, like you need a good coach. You need somebody that you can communicate with and trust and follow a plan without having to worry about the scale. Like if the scale's up, but you told your coach, you should trust that he's going to adjust if it needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, because you know what? It's funny we're even talking about this because you just came off a little vacay, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
did for like the first time in how many years, how many days of
Forever.
not tracking, right? It probably like the first time
It's
ever in
crazy.
your life
It is, yeah. Since I started tracking macros,
since you were bodybuilder, at
this,
least.
yeah, this is the longest I have ever gone without tracking. So it was actually almost 10 days, which is crazy because I was afraid to even do one day. So
Yeah.
Um, my weight was way up, but it was so worth it. Like I I could go on about that too, but the scale was way up, but I felt better mentally, physically. I feel strong. I like how I look. I enjoyed myself. And I do this once every many years. So
Yeah.
not a big deal. And I checked in with you. I told you, like, this is a scale. It's kind of freaking me out, but this is what I did. You tell me what to do next. It is what it is. We move forward, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's pretty much the biggest takeaway from this whole thing. If you're listening and you're a competitor, you probably have a coach. Communicate with your coach in advance. Cause like me and you, before you went on your vacation, we talked about all this, like I think probably 2 or 3 times, like what you were gonna do, how the plan was gonna work, what we were gonna go about. And then, you went, you came back, and then we talked about it again. So I mean, that's the same kind of thing with the holidays. A lot of competitors I know only work with coaches in prep seasons, which I think is a huge mistake. You should be working with the coach all the time for reasons just like this. And if you have a coach right now with you, guiding you through this holiday season, ask those questions, connect with them, send them a message, say, hey, I'm feeling this type of way about, my holiday eating. I don't really know what to think. Can you give me some insight, clarification? Because I see more and more now, like I was talking about earlier, how competitive things are in the sport. Bikini and wellness specifically, very, very competitive right now. Lots of new competitors. And like the look has changed a lot recently too, to where people got to be leaner and leaner than they had to before, and all these different things. That means, a lot of coaches out there that don't know what they're doing, unfortunately, are putting people on very extreme things to do that. I'm seeing 3-4 hours of cardio a day from some people I'm taking in now from other teams. No joke. Other teams, other coaches saying they were doing 3-4 hours of cardio a day and they're eating like 700 calories. I mean, like, it's crazy stuff. So what can happen easily is, you get into this mode where you don't understand how to eat anymore. You don't understand how to train anymore. Your metabolism and all these things have changed, and your mindset mostly because, your coaching method was so bad. So if you are, moving on from that and you've changed that and you got a better coach now, like there's no problem with being afraid of, the holiday eating. There's no problem with any of this stuff. The problem is if you don't communicate it with your coach. So bring it up, get, the feedback you need, get the advice, get the guidance, get the help through it so that you can start unlocking different levels of, your actual potential as a competitor. Because like the end of the day, 3-4 hours cardio a day, 600 calories, all this. I mean, anybody can do it for a little bit. You'll never do it for a long time. You'll never do it into the pro leagues and beyond. You'll never do those things. It just won't happen.
100%. You said that all so well. And I think really this is a time where it's a little bit harder to be for competitors, like the off season, improvement season, especially holidays. This is where more than ever you need a good coach, good communication, someone to keep you accountable. It's easy when you're in prep and your goal is to keep getting leaner, leaner, leaner. You can do all the extremes, but what do you do after, right? So biggest takeaway, get a good coach because it's going to help you mentally, physically, and in the long term, you're going to be able to keep this a very sustainable approach to your next show, next prep.
Yep, 100%. I mean, it's the end of the day. That's really what it is. This whole list of things, which Brianna, typed up to like 48 things, I think, that we hit and we talked about. But like, it's all about mindset, really. It's all about setting the framework. It's all about doing the things that are going to put you in the right environment mentally to do the right things for your goals. And the best part is if you have a good coach, that person can help you do that too when you might have an off day, when maybe you missed some sleep or you're stressed out or work sucked or you got, something happened. That, having a partner in your goal is a huge, huge thing, especially when, like, again, most people don't understand what competitors do. Most people don't get that, like significant others don't get that a lot of times. Family definitely doesn't usually get it. Friends don't get it. You got all these outside sources that if they don't compete, they don't really know, that are telling you, this, that, and that. No, oh, you should come out and you should do that. And no, your coach will know though. Your coach will be that person that you can fall back on when things get hard or, you have questions or whatever. And I mean, I think more now than ever, the best thing you can do as a competitor is be better at communicating with your coach.
100% communication will make it all so much easier for you. Couldn't agree more.
Boom. So I think that kind of covers the show then, unless you got something else
I
there.
think so too. No, that's it. I think that we actually have a podcast coming up, if you saw our list, about handling relationships and family and competing.
Yes.
So you guys can stay tuned for that one too. It's going to be
That one's coming up soon. I don't know if that's the next one, but it is coming, right?
It's coming.
Yeah. So, and we got, again, like 8 other episodes that is already planned that we will execute.
Yeah.
That we'll be doing. So we're doing 2 of these a month, everybody listening. So make sure you're subscribed, you're following, and also give us some feedback. Give us some tips. Well, how long do you want these things to be? I mean, this is pretty much a brand new podcast again, since we took us a year to get here. But how long do you want these things to be? What kind of topics do you want to hear more about? What kind of things do you want to see? Let us know, because that's what this is for. We want to give you all the value and all the tips and all the tools so you can be your best competitor. That's the game. That's the plan. So I think that's it for me.
That is it. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.